They walk in that room, they become yours. And you got this energy inside your soul that says, I am the number one determinant of the success or failure of my students. Hey, y'all, when you get back, kick some butt. I'll see you in the winner's circle celebrating your victory. Let's go. 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 Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you, everybody.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 165 of the virtual AP Leadership Academy. Let me see who we got here. We got Takesha High checking in from Virginia. We got Rodney Richardson. He's also in Virginia, in Hampton. We got Renee Graham out here in Jersey, Montclair. Edgar Ray, Tiffany Adams, Baltimore. Marsha Poe up early in the morning out there in sunny San Diego, California, where the weather's beautiful 12 months out of the year. We got Rodney Richardson. We got Tashika Truesdale in the building, Atlanta. We got Scott Wiley in the building, Chester, West Virginia. Dr. Demetrius Scott, my brother, in the building. Principal Otis Kitchen II in the building. Dr. Sheikah Houston just finished up her session with Dr. Tammy Taylor, 10:30 every Saturday, Facebook Live, 10:30 Eastern Time. Create and educate. Vanessa Zeskin is in the building, Connecticut. Ronald Pugh, my man, Principal Pugh, I just saw him out there in Austin, Texas recently. Portia Ojigbo in D.C. John Hirricks, Tanya Pugh, Cynthia Farmer, Kimberly George, Waukegan, Illinois. Michael Benton out there in Cincinnati, Ohio. There's Dr. Tammy Taylor out there in South Carolina. Crystal Montague. She said, let's go, CJ. We got Dr. Donna Y. Ford in the building, the legendary Dr. Ford, who was my guest about 2 weeks ago, maybe, something like that. We got Principal Dot McKeever Jeter in the building out there in Calumet City, Illinois. I hope I said that right. We got Lisa DeBose Walker, Central Texas, Bev Hill, Louisiana. Let's go. We got Lisa Jordet out in California. Appreciate you getting up early in the morning. Rashard Davis in the 702 Las Vegas. Appreciate you getting up early in the morning every Saturday morning. GMW Wilkes, Gail Wilkins, Texas AP. Lavelle Johnson, peace, Lavelle. Ron Johnson, oh man, hey Ron, man, Dr. Johnson, I ain't seen you in a minute, man. Every now and then I see you on Facebook, but I haven't run into you. I will be at NAPSI this year for sure. So if you're down there, then we can finally connect. We got Principal Sean Hurt, man. He was dropping so much this morning as it relates to oh my God, to assessing NWEA. Couldn't get it out. NWEA preparation. So if you didn't see that, go on back and check it out on his page. He's every Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, live, Eastern Time, Facebook Live, right? And I think he's on LinkedIn Live as well. Grace Castaneda out there in Texas. Candace Norwood, Yolanda McKinney, getting ready to be that new AP out there in Arkansas. I guess she's in Little Rock, if not somewhere nearby. Nolene Price Martin is in the building. New principal in the house. Hey, y'all got a new principal. Clap it up for Nolene Price Martin. She new. You checked in at the right time because I got 4 new ones here We got Lou Saunders, my man. There's my wife, the queen, Kimberly Broughton Kafele, in the building. We got my man, Principal Josh Tovar. That's my brother, man. MPA Jaguars. He's in the building. He's out there in Texas, in Garland, somewhere in the Dallas area. I'm getting ready to get it started, y'all. Tanisha Russell, Lavelle Johnson out in Green Bay, Willie Lanier. Let me see if there's anybody I got to get to. Dr. Rella Hicks is in the building. Dr. Roz Gaskins, I see you. Oh man, I see my man. We got the CEO of OSG, Off School Grounds, in the building. Dr. Dennis McKeezy, I see you. Hey Dennis, man, we gotta connect on here on this platform. We just gotta reach out and figure out a date and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, good to see you. And for those of you that don't know, Off School Grounds, OSG, they doing big things, man. They doing big things. And this is the CEO. I guess that's the title you use, Dennis, or is it president, whatever it is. You know, you doing big things. Everybody knows OSG, man. Everybody wants to get down with y'all. Lisa B. Woods Herman, and I think I'm going to close it right here. Where we go? Let me see if I see a name that's just familiar to me. Yeah, here's one. Let me just shout out Edwin Garcia right here in Jersey and Passaic. I'm going to end it right there with my shout outs. Let me say formally to everybody right now, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 165 of the virtual AP Leadership Academy. Oh, man. And as I always ask every week, hey, y'all, how you feeling? That's my every Saturday morning question. How you feeling? I'm just curious. How you feeling? You tired? You're worn out? You're exhausted? You frustrated, discouraged, but are you feeling up? Because see, in leadership, all those things, I mean, they're negative, but they real. You know, we dealing with real life here. So one can feel tired. One can be exhausted. One can be drained. One can be frustrated. One can be exhausted. But it doesn't take away from the fact that you still feeling that fire. You're still energized. You're still excited. You're still enthused. You're still passionate, right? We just keeping it real. But, you know, I happen to be the host here. So I always got to let you know how I feel because I just want to set the tone, man. And if I can, I just want to model for somebody. So despite my week of travel, right? I work harder than the average person, they tell me sometimes. You know, because it's just a lot to this work, and then planning for Saturday. That's not like, you know, winging it. Let me throw something together on Friday night. This is all week long planning. But despite that, hey, somebody, I'm on fire! Woo! Woo! I gotta get that out every Saturday, man. Yesterday, I was in Atlanta at the Innovative School Summit as a keynoter, plenary session. 3,000 folks in the audience, man. I wanted to yell that on my fire because some people ask me, how come you didn't say that? I never say that when I'm on the road. I just say that at home. But people ask, you didn't say it, and you didn't wear baseball, Negro Leagues jersey, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, nah, y'all don't get that live, man, on site. But you do get that Frankie Beverly and Mays, We Are One. You do get that two-step, man. Let me tell y'all something before I get my rundown here. They gave me a catwalk, man. I had a stage and a catwalk. Man, I worked that thing, man. I'm not a dancer. I ain't got that gift. But I could do my two-step, man, and that's my theme song when I keynote. We are one, man. Throw up one finger. We are one. Man, I had a ball. Shout out to Innovative School Summit. Shout out to anybody that's on the call right now that was down in Atlanta yesterday with me. If you listening to me live and you was there yesterday, you know you're supposed to be watching the presenter right now. You ain't supposed to be listening to us, right? A few people said, oh, I'm going to be listening to you tomorrow morning while I'm watching the presenter. So if you on here, shout out to you. Hey, y'all, let me give you my quick commentary, man. I got the 3 dynamite guests coming up, but let me give you this commentary. I'm calling it the 2022-23 school year does not define nor dictate your destiny. Let me say that again. The 2022-23 school year does not define nor dictate your destiny. Let me tell you what I mean by that. If you had a phenomenal year this year, or if you're winding down now, you had a phenomenal year. Don't rest on that. Don't settle on that. Don't feel that there's no need to grow now because you had such a phenomenal year. As good as the year was, it doesn't define what next year is going to be, what the third year is, what the year after is going to be, what the year after that is going to be. It just means you had a great, phenomenal, extraordinary year this year. But now you got to put forth the work going into next year. You can't just rest on your laurels, man. You can't become complacent and content. I had a great year, so now there's nothing more that I need to do. No, that year is in you. This current school year is in your rear view mirror now. This, of course, you're going to bring your pluses and your minuses. You're going to bring your experiences with you into 2023-24. But you obviously are going to elevate. That's got to be the intent. You're going to elevate. You're going to elevate. You're going to elevate. You're not going to just settle, because if you settle, what you're doing is you're decreasing. You're decreasing. You're declining, because you decided that what you did this year is going to carry you through the rest of your career. So 2022-23 cannot define nor dictate your destiny, right? Where you're going. If you had a bad year, don't throw up your hands. I'm frustrated, I quit. Now go to the videotape. Now go to the mirror and figure it out. What went wrong? What do I need to do differently? How do I reinvent myself transitioning into the 2023-24 school year? How do I make myself that much more proficient than I was this year? So it's not a time to be frustrated permanently. You can be we're human. We can have that down moment, but now it's time. I'm talking about Rocky, man. It's time now we gonna go. So get up on your feet and let's make it happen, right? It's all about the mind. It's all about the mental. Y'all seeing my camera stall, and I finally figured out what it is, and this is going to be the last weekend that it's happening. I figured it out. All right, so here we go. Real quick, first timers, welcome. Glad you're here. I don't know where you've been. This is week 165. Where you been for 164 weeks of my life, right? I haven't missed a week. We've been consecutive 165 weeks yelling into this camera, right? So go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Even the veterans, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel, right? We got 18,300 subscribers. I'm trying to get to 20,000, then we'll elevate the goal, right? So subscribe to the channel and then binge watch all of them. Ain't nothing but quality on that channel, man. Ain't no fluff on that channel, just quality. So binge watch it, right? School Leadership Institute, man, it's around the corner, like 2 weeks or something, right? So if you have 2 or 3 weeks, whatever it is, I'll be in Charlotte live, July 11 and 12. Come join me in Charlotte, North Carolina. School Leadership Institute with Principal Kafele. Man, we're gonna have a great time, man. 2 consecutive days. We're gonna go 9 to 4 both days. And then I'm available after 4. So if you just want to rap about some leadership, man, after hours, hey, let's huddle up in the lobby and let's talk some more leadership informally, right? So, which is what we do. So join me July 11 and 12. Go to principalkafele.com. Scroll down to the announcements on the home page. Click the register button where you see School Leadership Institute with Principal Kafele. Register and join me in Charlotte, North Carolina for 2 big days, July 11 and 12. And then while you're at it, Then fly on down to Jacksonville, Florida, where we're going to be at the Black Educators Rock Conference. Oh, man. Everybody, you just heard me shout out Dr. Dennis McKeesey. He'll be there, but a whole lot of others. I'm not even going to drop names because there's too many of them. It's all these substantive quality people going to be there in all genres of education. So that's July the 13th through the 16th. Come on down. I won't be there the 13th through the 16th. I'll be there the 15th and the 16th. I'll be doing this live from my hotel room, and then I'll go down there and join the folks. And then I'm going to do an all-day session on Sunday on school leadership, particularly focused on aspiring leaders, assistant principals, and new principals. So that's Sunday, July 16th at the Black Educators Rock. I'm going from 10 to 3. We talking leadership. We'll give you some time for lunch, but we talking leadership for the aspiring leaders, the assistant principals, the new principals. And if the veterans want to come, it ain't going to be irrelevant for you. So come on in there too. That's at the Black Educators Rock in Jacksonville, Florida. My new joint, man, real quick, the assistant principal identity. If you don't have it yet, what you waiting for? I went on Amazon this morning. Of the 9 ASCD books I wrote, 6 of them or in the top 100 on Amazon administration. Man, what a blessing, man. God is good, man. So the assistant principal identity, but while you're there, you might as well get the assistant principal 50. These are both compatible with the Saturday Academy, the virtual AP Leadership Academy. And then I'll throw this one more at you, the aspiring principal 50. So, get all 3. And then if you're so inclined, then get all 9 of my ASCD books, right? They're all there on on Amazon. I hit Alexa back in July. I'll be back on Alexa, so no need to talk about it. Mid-July, I'll be back on there. And then that should take care of it, y'all. Let me see. Make sure you like and follow that my Facebook Virtual AP Leadership Academy page, though, right? That's on Facebook. I haven't been writing my Sunday commentaries, but I promise I'm going to get back to them real soon because I need to. I appreciate them accolades, by the way, y'all. I see them. Yeah, six out of 9 in that top 100. Now, it's not going to stay that way. I just happen to catch it at the right time. It may not even be all 6 now that's in that top 100. But anytime you can write, 6 of your books all sitting there in the top 100 on Amazon, you must have put out some kind of quality information. Other than that, I'm done, man. I got a great panel this morning. I'm calling this, I'm completing my first full year as a principal. Let's talk. Man, before I bring my guest up, one of my guests, Sawyer, I've known him for forever. I've known him for a long time in the education world, and I'm excited about him. I'll bring him up in a minute, but I want to talk about the 3 before the 3 young women before I bring them up. I was in their district in Newark Public Schools, East Central Ward, school leadership team, just doing some work with them this year, and I met my 3 guests here as brand new principals. So I literally went to them. I guess it was 2 weeks ago, and I said, I need you on the platform, and they obliged me. Right? They obliged me. So this wasn't the original plan. But being in their presence, I said, man, I gotta shift what I was going to do. I want them on here right now. So let me bring up my guest here, and we gonna get rocking, y'all. We gonna get rocking, and I got my guest in the building. Good morning, y'all. How you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. I got Dr. Courtney Johnson here. I got Dr. Tiffany Wicks. I got Principal Erica Paich, and I got Principal Sean Sawyer in the building. Now their bios, although they're first year principals, their bios are extremely extensive, y'all. Extremely. I had to do something on that plane last night that I don't like to do. I had to edit them down because they've just done a lot, man. They've done a lot. But I want to look, y'all be patient with me. Let me just read a little of this because I want you to know who's on here. I don't want to just throw people on the platform and you don't know their background. So here we go. Dr. Courtney Johnson is entering her 16th year as an educator with the Newark Board of Education. By the way, y'all, I'm going to read fast, so put your seatbelts on. She received a Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education with a dual concentration in math, science, and technology from the College of New Jersey and became a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. In 2006, Dr. Johnson began her professional career as a substitute teacher in the Newark School District. The following year, she became a teacher and cheerleader coach at 18th Avenue School. She also served on the School Leadership Council, which was instrumental in implementing the broader, bolder approach, a school-based intervention plan across Central Ward schools. Dr. Johnson went on to teach middle school math at Luis Munoz Marin, earning the distinction as a highly effective teacher. She later became a teacher coach of mathematics at Dr. William H. Horton and returned to Luis Munoz, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Marin as a teacher coach of technology, where she integrated Google for education platforms across the disciplines to strengthen the professional practices of teachers. Dr. Johnson completed her Master of Science in Educational Leadership at Kafele University in 2017, while serving as the School Operations Manager at Luis Munoz Marin. In addition, she co-facilitated the Girls in Technology STEM program and coached the award-winning students of the 2020 Newark Census Logo Contest held at Arts High School. Lastly, as a transformational leader, Dr. Johnson remains committed to leading school communities through the complex interplay between pedagogy, practice, and relationships. Her educational philosophy is that stakeholders must collectively equip students with skill sets to make informed decisions that lead to healthy individuals who will go on to pursue their unique pathways to lifelong learning. She follows a legacy of educators in her family that spans across 3 generations. She's a product of Newark Public School District, as she attended Harriet Tubman School in her formative years. She is also an esteemed member of the National Sorority of Phi Delta Kappa Sorority Incorporated, who they've been very good to me over the years. And Dr. Johnson is honored to serve as the instructional leader of Quitman Street School. Under Dr. Johnson's leadership, Quitman Street School has maintained strategic partnerships and programming, including the 8th grade Algebra 1 program, school safety program before anyone else, girls mentoring program, Bettering Our Generation, boys mentoring program, and Saturday Academy. Dr. Johnson remains committed to ensuring that each child receives the world-class education they deserve. Man, that's a lot. But I want to say this before I go to my next bio to read. Those of you who are aspiring leaders, I'm talking about the ones who are still in the classroom, still counseling, whatever it is, you're aspiring leader. You heard the things that Dr. Johnson did prior to, right? So a lot of times folks are saying, like, I can't get the interview. I got the interview, but I can't get hired, right? They're looking for more experience, that type of thing. So I'm saying to you, sometimes you got to do some things before you get that position, right? So look at what are those opportunities within your district or maybe somewhere else, but just opportunities that you can put on your resume that shows I've done some things. I haven't been an administrator, but I've done some things that demonstrate that I'm capable, I'm competent, I'm worthy of being hired for this position, right? Dr. Tiffany Wicks in 2012 began her career as a substitute teacher in the Newark Public Schools. Another sub, y'all. She then graduated from Caldwell College and became a classroom teacher who looped between grade levels. In 2018, she became her school's Teacher of the Year. During her time as a teacher, she researched and built her knowledge on effective pedagogy and continued her education at Montclair State University, completing her master's in education leadership. Continuing her passion for research and leadership, in 2019, Dr. Wicks became an English language arts supervisor in the Office of Teaching and Learning. In that role, she wrote culturally relevant curricula that embedded books that strengthen pride and understanding of one's identity and structures that enable students to build knowledge. Newark Public Schools students continue to learn from this curriculum today. Wanting to move learning in 2021, Dr. Wicks was promoted to vice principal. I want y'all to hear this again. 2021. She was promoted to vice principal, where she assisted in leading staff and students in instruction and student learning. And I want you to hear that again for this reason, because she then became principal of the same school in 2022, the next year. Due to her love of research, Dr. Wicks attended Seton Hall University and obtained her executive doctoral degree in 2023. The title, so 21, 22, 23 were some big years, y'all. The title of her research in the teacher perception is Teacher Perceptions on the Influence of the Amistad Integrated Units on Instructional Practices and Black Female Students' Academic Experiences. Dr. Wicks has presented these findings at Mayor Raz Baraka's 2022 Roadmap to Educational Equity Conference, which I also spoke at. Her goal is to not only be an impactful leader, but to continue to present on cultural relevance and equity for children, especially children of color. Lastly, Dr. Wicks is a proud wife to Raheem and his mother to 5 children, Jamie, Jordan, Jaden, Jason, and Jade. The same expectations that she has for her children are those that she has for her scholars. Believe in yourself, take accountability for your learning, and take risks. She believes that all students deserve to build knowledge that will allow them to become agents of social change who develop their own perspectives and find and create solutions to community and worldwide issues. Woo, we getting there. We halfway there, y'all. Hit that share button, hit that retweet button. Let them know. I'm just letting the folks know who's on here, man. Mrs. Erica Paich is a dedicated educator passionate about fostering educational excellence and empowering students. With 13 years of experience as an educator in the North Board of Education, Mrs. Paich has consistently demonstrated her commitment to providing quality education. Notably, Principal Paich's most recent endeavor involved the opening of Ironbound Elementary School, located in the heart of Ironbound. In year 1, she established a team of exceptional educators who are cultivating strong foundations for diverse learners through multisensory, research-based instruction. They have exemplified their unwavering dedication to ensuring that all children receive effective instruction in reading, writing, and critical thinking. Understanding the significance of literacy as a fundamental human right and a means to promote equity within communities, she has made it her mission to ensure quality instruction for every child. Her belief in the transformative power of literacy is the cornerstone of her educational philosophy. In 2014, Ms. Paich completed her master's degree while serving as special assistant supervisor in the Instructional Technology and Literacy Department. Her responsibilities included spearheading the implementation of Google Apps for education, Chromebooks, and online testing in schools. Furthermore, Mrs. Paich collaborated closely with instructional coaches and classroom teachers to implement effective pedagogical strategies to improve student outcomes. She also played a pivotal role in supporting reading intervention programs designed to support striving teachers. In 2018, she joined the North Ward School Leadership Team as a special assistant. In this capacity, she provided valuable support to 13 schools within the North Ward, assisting their instructional leaders in fostering a culture of excellence. After 2 years, she assumed the role of director, overseeing the North Board of Education's enrollment processes. And finally, Mrs. Erica Paich's journey as an educator is a testament to her unwavering commitment to educational equity, instructional innovation, and student success. Through her dedication, leadership, and collaborative spirit, she continues to shape the lives of countless students and inspire her fellow educators. That's a lot, y'all. They've done a lot. They've done a lot. Hit that share button. Hit that retweet button. Let them know I got one more. My man, Sean Sawyer, once again, substitute the principal. Sean began his career in education as a substitute teacher with the East Orange School District, transitioning from a career in business to one of education, meant starting as a fill-in for teacher vacancies and providing him an opportunity to gain classroom experience. It was the Hart Middle School complex that paved the way for his career in educational leadership, as it was the Hart Middle School complex that paved the way for my career. In 1997, Sean landed his first full-time teaching position at George Washington Carver Science and Technology, where he taught the most challenging 5th grade scholars enrolled and realized they were in need of more than academic instruction. Pat Fairbanks, my old colleague, George Washington's principal, offered the guidance, support, and freedom necessary for Sean to develop strong relationships with students, along with communication and classroom management skills necessary to develop mastery in teaching. One of only 3 Black male teachers in the building, Sean recognized the importance of Black male leadership early and began to create and implement after-school programs that provided mentorship, group support, and chess programs for all students. Soon after, he earned his master's degree in educational leadership and his principal certification. In 2007, he took on the role of assistant principal at University Charter high school in Jersey City, right around the corner from me, and first time working in a charter school. He was presented with both unique set of challenges and opportunities for growth and development. Primarily as an AP, Sean was tasked with addressing disciplinary issues from uniform violations to weapons possession, from truancy, court to gang-related violence. Prepared for the task at hand, he immediately implemented systems to address these discipline concerns. Over the next 14 years, Sean introduced programs including the Young Men's Leadership Academy, Young Women's Leadership Academy, Summer Bridge programs, HBCU college tours, Father's Day barbecue, and Fatherless Boys, New City Kids, and health and fitness programs, which took place 2 Saturdays a month. And then lastly, ever invested in continuing education and professional development, Sean enrolled in Kane University's doctoral program in 2019 and is preparing to defend his dissertation in December 2023. Last year, Sean took on the role he prepared for his entire educational career. He's now principal of Community Charter School of Paterson, New Jersey. Woo! Man, that's a lot of reading, y'all. But that's the backgrounds, folks, of my guest. I'm ready to go, y'all. Hit the share button, hit the retweet button, hit the repost button, and hit the share button. Hit all those buttons to let folks know that we are ready to go. And most importantly, y'all, hit that like button, man. I'm learning how to maneuver around these algorithms. That like button tells people there are things happening on this platform. So hit that like button for me. Just hit it. Like, so that folks know that things are happening here. Hey, Dr. Johnson, let's get it going. Dr. Johnson, you know, as I'm getting older myself, I'm finding that I'm becoming that much more proficient in separating my work from my play, right? So being away from the work, I'm finding that I'm able to leave that other guy on the stage, in my case, you know, the kind of work I do, and to kind of settle in at home as the guy off stage. So there's this distinction that I've drawn: Principal Kafele, Baruti Kafele. They're both in the same body, but they are two very, very different people, right? So my question, which is a two-parter for each of you, I'm gonna ask all of you the same questions, but I want to start with Dr. Johnson on this one. As an educator only, Dr. Johnson, who is Dr. Courtney Johnson?
So, as an educator, I will first off start by saying that as a principal, you're always on, right? And so my story is very unique. At an early age, I knew I wanted to go into the field of education. Both of my parents were educators. In fact, the district in which I serve, I attended as a student. I'm also a resident in the great city of Newark. So at this juncture, I would just say it's in the blood, right? It's who I am as a person. And so what allows me to be who I am as a principal is just having that sense of passion, really wanting the best for our students and for them to be able to come back and serve our community. One thing I would say as a person, I don't ask for what I don't give. And so if my standards are high for the students that I get to serve on a day-to-day basis, I also ask for them to come back and pour into the community. We can't be in the business of just taking. We also have to pay it forward. And that was something that was extended to me, watching it up close and personal with my parents, and then in turn doing that in my professional role.
Can't just be in the business of taking, but we've got to pay it forward. Those are profound words. Hey, Dr. Wicks, same thing. You know, I know, like, you know, and we've had the conversation about you got a large family. So I don't feel that person is necessarily who's leading the school. Who, as an educator, who is Dr. Tiffany Wicks?
So, as a leader, and I always look at myself when I'm in the building, same as the teachers, even though I'm leading it, I always try to remember. So you want to stay humble, try to remember what they're going through each and every day inside the the classroom as well. It is very hard to turn off. I think I've learned after all these years how to separate the two, Tiffany and Dr. Wicks. But sometimes Tiffany has to be in the building as well when you're leading. So as an educator, I try to be insightful. I try to be motivating, inspirational. I try to be transformative. I make sure that the same things that I want from my own children, right? And that's where the separation is hard to come in, is the same thing I want for the students, the same expectations. My child also sits in my school, one of my children, and my other four sit in Newark Public Schools. So the same thing I want for them is what I expect as an educator and for my teachers, my staff that serve the students.
That's big, and I didn't know that. So you have one child in your school, and the other one's in Newark Public Schools. That's amazing. I've always wondered what it would have been like if my children were in my school where I was principal. I will never know that, but I've always just wondered, what would that dynamic have been like? Principal Paich, same question to you as an educator. Who is Principal Paich?
So I like to think I'm somebody who is fair and focused on student achievement all of the time. And I'm not somebody who's forgotten what it's like to be a teacher. I think that is such an important component of any administrator, is knowing what it was like to be in front of students every day and being on as a teacher for 100% of the day. And that memory and that self-reflection has allowed for buy-in with my staff, and has also allowed for me to continue to stay focused on the relationships with the students and ensuring that my students know that I love them so much, and my parents know that I love their babies as my own children, in a similar dynamic. And I am somebody who tries to find joy in the things that take place in my school to create that joy for my students.
Love it, love it. All right, Principal Sawyer, I was getting ready to call you doctor, but it's coming. It's coming. Principal Sawyer, who is Principal Sawyer as an educator?
So I would say Principal Sawyer as an educator, as a person who values the level of relationships and the relationship with scholars, relationship with people I work with, and I learned that role can be both very beneficial on all levels, from classroom teacher from sub to classroom teacher to assistant principal to principal. But what I am learning now is the way in which that is done changes from vice principal to principal, and the way it has to happen. So, from assistant principal, I was able to kind of really be out there. The classroom, is very easy to be to build relationships. From a principal level, because of where it stands, it's been very beneficial, because a lot of things that have happened have been been successful based upon those relationships. But it's very difficult because there's so much work that happens as the building principal, that so much comes at you. The development of relationships, it takes kind of a backseat. So that's why I'm a passionate educator who loves to build relationships with scholars and educators to make sure that we can get the best out of our best outcomes for our students.
Good stuff. I love it. I love it. I want to go back to you, Dr. Johnson. And when I prepare my questions every week, I'm thinking about my guest, but I'm thinking more so about my audience. And I know definitively that I have a very young audience. I've got a lot of folks on here who are just aspiring administrators, a lot of folks on here who are assistant principals, and there's a lot of new principals that tune in, not to mention the veterans. But this is not an older audience, right? So with that said, here you are, first year, but you got the 16 years under your belt. But first year in this capacity of leader. Talk to us about whatever challenges, whatever struggles that you may have, if possible, turning off the Dr. Johnson, the Principal Johnson switch when you are at home as a first year principal, because if I ask you this question as a fifth year principal, your answer may sound very different than what I'm about to hear now. But as this first year principal, given that I know there's a lot of newbies out here watching, talk to us about some of those challenges of turning that switch off when you're not in Equipment Street School.
Okay. So it starts with understanding my challenge, right? In the very beginning, I had a lot of people in my ear. And so I had to say, Courtney, you have to stay the course. You have to be focused. You can't answer to 20 people. There's no way. And so when I first came into the role, I acknowledge by far this is the hardest assignment that I've had thus far, but it doesn't take away from my journey. Prior to this assignment, I had the opportunity to serve at the central office level. It allowed me to go into some of the high schools, some of the other elementary schools, connect with other leaders in the district, take best practices, marry them, and then I built my own foundation, right? Some of those gems I wanted to transition into the school in which I'm leading today. And so just being true to yourself, not being afraid to fail. I said, fail forward, if you will, and also having thought partners along the way, people who you can connect with, not only people who will just tell you what you want to hear, but tell you, Courtney, you need to consider this as well. It's not uncommon for me to pick up the phone and speak to Dr. Wicks or call Principal Paich and just have these transparent conversations. We motivated each other throughout the academic year, and I cannot thank them enough. And I will definitely encourage inspiring leaders to stay connected with people along the way. And one last thing that Principal Sawyer mentioned is relationships. They go a long way. There are relationships I was able to establish from the very, very beginning of my career. And so the fact that I can pick up a phone call and run certain things or make requests and it's able to happen in a matter of minutes, it's a blessing. And so I definitely have stayed true to myself from the very beginning. I came into my classroom as a kindergarten teacher. I completed my lesson plans. I stayed beyond my contractual time just to make sure that when the children came into my classroom, I was ready and over prepared to service them. And it's the same mindset that I leverage today.
Started off 16 years ago. You said kindergarten, right?
Yes, that was my first assignment.
Yeah. Wow. Dr. Wicks, same question. What are those challenges, if there are?
Yeah, so again, because I have a big family, I have to stay mindful that so I'll go back and tell you a story as a teacher, which what really motivated me to like be mindful of my time and who I am when I'm taking off the hats. As a teacher, as a first year teacher, I had my fourth child. And I was staying late. I was doing lesson plans. I was making sure that everything was set for the next day. And I missed my fourth son walking. And that's when my husband said, you could do this work at home, right? And so that's when a light bulb clicked. And I said, I could start taking the work home. I don't have to be here, every single day. And so I still take that now and I schedule my time. There are only certain days that I stay late now so that I could do the work. And then there are days where I go home early and I check out. Sometimes my staff will be like, oh, you didn't text me back yet. And it's like, because you have to be mindful of who Tiffany is and who Dr. Wicks is. And my kids don't need Dr. Wicks all the time. They need mommy. And so I guess I would say it's a challenge, but not really, because like you have to be mindful of it. You have to sit in it and you have to know when to check out. I'm not going to lie. The first year, though, from July to December, it was very, very, very hard to check out because so many things are due. You're learning about so many things. You're reflecting all the time. You're trying to change things. But be really mindful of scheduling your time, making sure you have time for your family because they're the ones in your corner. And so I would just say be mindful of that. So not really a challenge, just something that I you have to sit in and know that that's the most important. Something else that someone told me is if you get sick and you have to stay out of work, the school will keep running without you.
Mm.
And so just make sure, just always remember that as well.
You know, I love that last part you said, and I always add this other piece. And if it doesn't run when we're not there, then we got to go here and find out why. Right? I can't step out a day. I can't step out a few days. I can't go to a meeting and the school collapses because I'm not in the building. Then it speaks volumes about my leadership. Right. So I'm glad you brought that up. Principal Paich, talk to us about whether or not those are challenges for you.
Yeah, so I'll definitely attest to the last statement that Dr. Wicks said around the building will continue to run without you. And I think that is the investment in the time in those early months, in that September, October, November, where all new principals, all new leaders put in place those systems. And being the system thinkers that I know Dr. Wicks and Dr. Johnson are, I don't know our other panelists very well, but being that system thinker allows us to create that space for the instructional improvement that we're all looking for. And I don't think any of us has stayed in that operational bucket for too long. We continue to refine those processes to move forward, but because we got them set, we can step away for a minute and it's not going to come falling down. And we know those instructional practices are able to move forward. But I also think that has allowed me to create time and space for being mommy at home sometimes. And my kids hold me accountable for that. They're like, put your phone down. I'm like, okay. And using technology to be able to streamline those things. There's a great feature on the iPhone called Focus. You can create little focuses that only allow certain people to bust through and get your attention. So using those pieces, using those operational structures, systems, I guess, has allowed me to be a person beyond just being a principal. Because life will have surprises for you and be like, surprise, this is going to happen in your life. And you have to keep these plates spinning while all this other stuff is going. And those systems and time that you invested initially pays off.
Got to put that phone down, got to unplug, got to disconnect, right? And sometimes the children are the ones that remind us to do so. Principal Sawyer, same question.
Yeah, pretty much the same sentiments. I think one of the biggest challenges for me was just learning what balance looked like. And I learned a key word this year was a hard stop, right? So the idea was that, if you have a meeting, that if there's a hard stop at a certain time, that you had to have that hard stop, right? And even the idea of a lot of conversations or meetings you may have as a building principal sometimes is on the fly, right? And you got to be able to kind of understand that a conversation or meeting with someone has to have a hard stop. So, something about, hey, what is the lesson plan format, whatever it could be, in my mind, I have to have a hard stop of 5 minutes, right? That it ends. The other part of it is learning the balance of family and making sure that, not family, just home and family, but having a way to not make sure that stuff from work comes home. Because as everyone said, that it is, it's going to keep going whether you are there or not. But I will say that what happens though, when you're in your first year, you want it to go well so bad and so much that you do end up putting a lot of time after hours in making sure that it goes well, right? So the idea that one of the learns that I got, or growth areas I learned from, was to be able to create those systems so that school and that environment will be okay without you if you're not there.
Yeah. And I just want to emphasize what you said about the time. There's somebody out on the call watching, someone in the family out there that you want to get into this thing called school administration, school leadership. Understand, it's not a 9 to 5 ever. It's just not what it is. It can be very time consuming. So you have to understand that. And the role of the AP as far as time is very different from the principal. So understand what you're getting yourself into when you decide that you want to come into this world of leadership. Let me switch gears here, and I want to start off with Dr. Wicks on this one. Doc, I was a principal for 14 years, and as I reflect back on year one, my first year, and the conclusion of my first year, there's no way in the world, Doc, that I could conclude that this was a great year. I was, I don't think I lost my happiness for myself, but I wasn't feeling like I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish because I didn't know enough. I was new, but there were victories, right? There were wins. And I'll holler at the family out here real quick. You've always got to search for your wins because it's easy to become consumed by your losses, right? So never lose sight of your wins. So I had wins. So my question to you, Dr. Wicks, and then the rest of you will follow. When you reflect back on your year one, which you're just completing now, what was that thing that you accomplished that you can sit here now and say, I feel pretty good about that. I think I did well in that particular area.
So I think this year, because this is my second year as Sir Isaac Newton. Last year was vice principal, this year principal. I think that culture was the biggest win. We talked about it yesterday was our last day of school. And so building a new culture, the staff that was there have been there for 3 years, 2 years with me, but 3 years in total. The school just reopened. And I would say that the culture was off. But this year, the goal, after assessing everything from last year to see what the staff needed, what the parents needed, what the students needed, that was the biggest shift. We had parents in the school all the time. We had really big events. We had a sunshine committee. The teachers were out all the time. I went out at times with them as well, so that they could build a bond, so that when they come back in the school, there's a big bond. Laughing in the hallways, very bright and colorful. And so I would say that this year was great when we're speaking about the culture, when I reflect on that part. And that was the actual goal for this year. The goal was to build the culture back so that we can move forward every year after.
Good stuff. And again, I'm, looking at the wins, and here you've identified, well, I know what I walked into as being new to the building, and now that culture of the building has evolved, and now you can sit back and say, yeah, I won there, and I know you're still building there, right? But good stuff. Let me go to Principal Paich on the same question. What is that thing that you can look back on and say, I feel pretty good about myself with that?
So I get to live that like grad school project that I think everybody did of like creating a new school from the top up or the bottom up. So Ironbound Academy Elementary School is a brand new school. And not only is it a brand new school, it never existed as a Newark Board of Education building before. So every single thing that we did, we created. And it was even as small as, which door do the kids come in at? How do they dismiss? How do we line up? All of those little things that you take for granted in an established building that you get to design and come up with, our core values, all of those things. So we always say, like, we're building strong foundations at Ironbound Academy. We're literally the foundational year, and we're setting up that foundation for everything that comes after. And knowing, like, at our ribbon cutting, we had a time capsule, and we put everybody's name into the time capsule, all the staff, all the students. Like, this is part of the history forever. We are part of that foundation forever, and it's ours. So, and we own it, and we can't blame it on anybody else. So I think that's really has been our shining star for this year, is getting the train moving and keeping it on the tracks.
That's huge. Opening up a new school. Something I wanted to do, probably still want to do, but just very much in love with the work that I do. But that's huge. That's huge. And all that attention to detail that you talked about, that's significant. That's significant. So I appreciate that. Let's move on to where am I at? I lost sight of my notes. Principal Sawyer, same question.
Yes, I think the I can take as a highlight or just a win was creating a sense of educator stability. For context, I walked into a school that after coming back from remote learning, there was a mass exodus in this building of probably 25 educators, from principal down to classroom teachers. So when we came in, the building was ran by substitutes and just various people, and the kids had an idea of, you're not going to stay. Like, whoever came, you're not going to be here long with us, right? So and the new year, one of my biggest focuses was to make sure that I filled the 17 vacancies that had to be filled with the best people possible. And two, the retention of those people at the end of the year. So, for me, we walked away at the end of this year with filling those roles and retaining about 14 of those 17 that we filled. So, for me, just creating that sense of stability, and then we could just build the next year where our students will see the same faces next year and get to know people, and that we are here to stay, and we're ready to, just kind of move forward from there. So that stability piece was very important for me.
So what's your level of optimism then, just based on that challenge, going into the next school year as far as your staffing?
So the level of optimism will be to, one, build on that stability. So moving forward from making sure that those teachers get the proper training, they can be able to kind of see their gifts and abilities and get them to have an attachment to the building. I think one of the biggest things is right now in the world of education is that we are in a teacher's market, and we have long gone are the days where someone will sit with you and say, "Hey, I taught for 35 years. Now I'm ready to retire." Right? Yeah. It's a market where someone will say, "Hey, I'll teach there for 2 years or whatever. And then I'm out. I'm on to something different. I'm going to, either go to another school or work for one of these corporations that are kind of, snatching a lot of teachers up." So the thing is, you have to make sure that the environment where teachers work is a place where they're so happy to be there that $5,000 to go to another district is not going to be able to move them, so you want to create a space. I want to create a space next year that people want to be here. And that they're happy to be here, and they feel wanted, they feel needed, and they feel appreciated.
By you saying everything you said, with the sports mind that I have, you made me think of free agency in athletics, where a player will sign a 2 or 3 year contract, and then you fall in love with the team that the player plays on, and then he gonna bounce or she'll bounce and go somewhere else. And it's hard to really love this team because the personnel keeps changing, and it makes it for a challenge for the management to be able to move this team forward. So it sounds like the same thing that you're talking about. So I bring it up instead of moving on to my next person because of the people who are watching. So just, you said it already. I just want to reinforce it. Hey, somebody out there, what are you doing to lead the effort in creating an environment where folks want to stay despite the fact that they may be able to earn more somewhere else, right? Because if I'm in an environment that I feel is welcoming, that I feel that I belong, I feel that I'm somebody in that environment, that additional few $1,000s might not be an incentive to leave that. So I'm saying to my family out there watching, be sure that you're giving attention to the detail of creating an environment, creating a culture where people have no intention, no reason for wanting to leave you. They want to stay with you because they respect your leadership. That matters. I'm gonna go to Dr. Johnson on the same question.
Certainly. So there were a lot of shifts in my building this year. We merged with our annex. So just getting my staff to come together, our mantra this year was better together. And I acknowledge that there are strengths in numbers. Last week, our school yearbook, our yearbooks were delivered to the school. A yearbook just serves as a historical document to capture everything that you did throughout the academic year. And our yearbook was well over 100 pages. And so as we began to go through all of the events, all of the initiatives that we put in place this year, it really allowed for me to reflect on the year, like literally just looking at the pictures, looking at the faces. A picture tells a thousand words, right? And so just the variations of staff, you had community partners, and some of the pages you had parents, you had the students, of course, and then your staff as well. So all of those stakeholders coming together to contribute to the gains that we were able to accomplish collectively. That was definitely a pivotal moment for me. And as I officially close out with the first year, and I just shared that piece because it did contribute to our climate and culture. For the most part, a lot of our staff, they will be returning in the fall, and some in a different capacity. I had substitute teachers who completed their programs, and now they're going to serve as a full year teacher, first instructional role in the school building. And so that's definitely impactful to be able to grow your own and have our staff continue to rock out in the school building. And so that was definitely a gain for us as a school community.
Culture. I'm hearing it. I'm seeing it as I listen to each of you speak. It's something about the environment that it matters, right? And then people want to stay. They want to work for this particular leader. You as leader matter. Principal Paich, I want to invert this question. Once again, here you three are first full year under your belt. But it's the work is challenging, and as I've reflected back on mine, as I was putting the questions together, I'm thinking about my losses in this case, right? Those things that I just need to get better. So when I thought about those things, those areas where I need to become that much more proficient as a leader, one of the things that stood out to me in planning this agenda was budgeting, school finance. I said, I need a lot of work in building a budget and spending down on a budget. I said, I'm not good there, right? Because that's just not my thing. So I had to put a lot of energy, a lot of effort into becoming better. And I think I got better. I think I got pretty good in building a budget and then knowing how to spend in an equitable fashion for an entire school community, students and staff, in terms of staff needs. My question to you, therefore, Principal Paich, what might that area be in your leadership where you said, I want to get better here, right? I know I can grow here. What might that be?
Yeah. So for me, it's definitely not spending the money. That is definitely my strength. You can ask my husband about that there. But in terms of growth in the growth professionally, I would say spending more time in those classrooms. And that, I think, has been the hardest pill to swallow, so to speak, for me this school year. I come from a coaching background. I am instructional. Like, my favorite thing to talk about is reading, not any of the other stuff, right? I don't really want to talk about how to spend the last money in our 610 account. I want to talk about how can we improve reading instruction, and how do we improve reading instruction is through consistently being in those PLCs, which I did. I was there. But being in all of the classrooms all of the time. But there's only, like we've been talking about all morning, there's only so many hours in the day. And I had the privilege of learning how to be an assistant principal and a principal at the same time. I don't have another administrator in my building. It's just me. And I don't have the experience of being an assistant principal. I've had other experiences, but not that one. So there are times where you're just like, I got to type away at these observations. I got to do my strategic plan. I got to do the X, Y, Z, 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 Z. And you might lose out on those critical opportunities. All of that to say, I was in those classrooms, but not as much as I felt I should have been.
I love it. And so therefore you've identified it, you recognize it, and now you'll start processing over the summer in your mind, what is it I need to do that I didn't do? What do I need to do differently going into next year that I can spend much more time in those classrooms observing instruction? I love it. Where we at here? Let's go with Dr. Johnson on this one. Matter of fact, I changed my sequence. Let's go with Principal Sawyer on this one.
Okay. So for me, I think the key things were one, the building of systems. I didn't realize as a principal of a school how many systems you had to build, and how important it is to have those systems and what it feels like to not have those systems. So as Principal Part said, is that Paich, I'm sorry. But yeah, so how do they walk in? How do they walk out? What door do they go through? Like, what is looking like to line up? What are those types of things, right? Because especially in a school where all those things have to be built. This is what we've been doing for eons, right? When I spoke to that stability piece. So that was very a key thing to find out. And then for me, just as a first year principal, with all this being on me, I remember being on the sidelines before as assistant principal, and a lot of the tough decisions, tough calls, whatever, was made by the principal, and I could sit on the sideline, and whether he caught flack or whatever, it wasn't coming to me, right? Now realizing that my biggest key is working on holding folks accountable for doing what they're supposed to do. And I think a lot of that came in me having a certain type of affect, where whether I'm a relationship guy or coach, that type of thing, where I missed a boat in many cases of not holding folks accountable for doing what they were supposed to do, and that end up biting me in the back end of the year. So it's really important to know of this is what needs to be done, this is how it should look, and this is what happens when it's not done. And I think that was one of my biggest key things that I needed to really work on for the new year.
Systems. So putting those systems in place, and that speaks volumes to the other point about the leader not having to be in the building as being the chief cop in the building, because the systems will take care of everything within. Let's go to now Dr. Johnson on the same question.
Building capacity. I spent a great portion of the beginning of the year just observing, right? Beginning to learn who's who and what's what. What makes my school community very unique is that a lot of the staff, they've been there for years. And so, they were kind of looking at me, well, how long are you going to be here? And I'm like, oh, I'm here, right? And so I shared that piece because I really believe in distributive leadership, tapping into the skill sets and the talents of your staff members, giving them opportunities to grow, coaching them up. And so with that said, if you're really following that model, then you can share the leadership roles so that people can be able to go on and pursue their leadership journey. Prior to sitting in this seat, I had the opportunity while serving as a teacher to sit on the school leadership council, to lead initiatives in the school, and it helped develop me to this day. And so being able to build capacity, build my team so that next year we can go in strong with those systems, so that if I am out of the building attending a conference or having a meeting with parents and other stakeholders, that the building is able to continue to thrive in my absence. And that definitely will speak to my leadership as the principal of the school community.
I love it. Building capacity. And, we probably need to do a whole session just on building capacity, right? Because it's so necessary. And then Dr. Cooper here sharing leadership is key. Right. And a lot of times, and I'm just hollering before I go to Dr. Wicks, I'm hollering at the folks in the family who are watching. A lot of times we get into these new positions as leaders and we weren't prepared adequately as an AP. And then we find ourselves thrust into this principal role. We applied for it, or somebody felt we were ready. And here we are, we're using the Lean On Me movie as the model of leadership. And we're trying to do this thing by ourselves, as opposed to tapping into all these folks that are on this staff who have so much more skill than just what they do in the classroom. But we missed the boat on building that capacity that we could have built, because we're doing this thing as a lone ranger. So that building capacity, I probably need to make that a whole 2-hour topic, with some guests, maybe yourself as a part of that. And we take a deep dive into exactly what that looks like and how do we get it done. Let me go to Dr. Wicks on the same question.
So my biggest challenge was operations. I am completely instructional. I'm ELA, but I could do math. I've worked with Miss Paich. We're instructional. But when the operations came, I was like, wait, what? Because at home, my husband is operations. And so the first person I called was Dr. Johnson, because she was my operational person when I was a teacher at Luis Munoz Marin. And so in July, I called her. She sent me a list of what she used to look at when she walked through. And then I got my special assistant involved, and we start walking through the building, because what you don't know in operations, it's every single thing that you see that is wrong must be reported. And so I'm used to going into classrooms and looking at the instruction. But now I'm not only looking at instructions, I'm looking at the ceiling tiles, I'm looking at the cracks in the wall, I'm looking at the peel paint, looking at the slop sinks, making sure my custodians are cleaning those and they don't smell. The outside is the lawn done? Is the playground clean? Are the bricks falling down off the building? And so there's so much that is just a whole nother aspect that you have to be make sure that you're looking at, that sometimes we don't realize that we have to do, that much into it. So next year I have a plan every Monday, walk around with my custodian, so that we can look at the things, put in those reports so that facilities can come out and fix whatever. Yeah.
Operations. Dr. Wicks, I had a practice which it took a lot of my morning time, but I was committed to it. And I literally walked that entire building every day, early in the morning. Nobody was in the building. And I literally walked in every classroom. I probably didn't have to do it because my night custodians fully understood me. But I did it anyway. I just wanted to make sure that room was ready. But all those other places that you talked about, and looking at all that detail that you talked about, I'm looking at that as well. And I think it just made me a better leader in the sense of being able to report this and that and this and that to maintenance, custodian, etc., that they need to take a look at, as opposed to me ignoring all those things, not walking the building, not ever seeing those things, and then they break or whatever, and now we're not ready for it because there was no oversight of whatever it was. So I think I went on that little mini tangent because, again, I'm always thinking about this audience. And there could be someone out there, and you're going into this new role. You got to know, and Dr. Wicks was saying this, but she just didn't use this language. You got to know that building as if you're the one that built it, right? Your name is on the building. It's just not visible, but it's invisible, but everybody sees it. Let that process for a second. Let that resonate for a second. Your name is on the facade of the building. It's invisible, but everybody sees it. See, let that marinate for a second, right? So you got to know that building as if you built it with your own hands. You got to know it because you're the principal, and the buck is not going to stop with your AP. It's going to stop with you, right? Hey, appreciate that, Dr. Wicks. Let's let me go to Principal Sawyer on this one. Principal Sawyer, given you did a few months in the previous year, then you did a full year this year. Was there anything in your first year, inclusive of those few months in the last year, anything that surprised you that grad school, your 14 years of AP at University Charter, and any internship that you may have done in your assistant principalship, anything that surprised you that none of those prepared you for, right? Once you got into that principal seat. I had something, it's people will probably look at it as insignificant, trivial, but it was big for me. And I want to share it because, again, the audience. I led 4 different schools, as you know, Principal Sawyer.
Mhm.
And every school I walked into on that first day, the students did not know how to properly address me. They did not know. They thought, mostly the guys thought that a what's up or a sup or whatever, anything comparable, in their mind, that was acceptable, or even a head nod. So in each of those 4 schools, I had to bring that school together day one and teach them how to address me when they saw me. Right. I'm not doing it like, militaristic, just good morning, Mr. Kafele will suffice, as opposed to sup. Right. We're not doing that. So in each school, I saw it was a pattern. But then as I began to travel more, I found that it is universal. Right. It's no matter where I go, I see the same thing. So then I got to teach kids that I don't even know when I'm in my travels as a consultant how to address an adult. Right. So, but that's me. I'm asking you, anything that surprised you when you made that transition?
I would say the adults, right? And the way in which adults move, the way in which adults sometimes push their own personal agendas. Because nothing that the scholars did working in education for 27 years, there was nothing that ever happened with students that was ever surprising, right? Everything that happened was based upon, whether I was in East Orange, whether I was in Jersey City, whether I was in Patterson, it's always going to be the same things, right? And just also age levels and things like that. Adults was a surprising factor, and getting the understanding of how to manage these adults. So definitely in the assistant principal role, again, like I said, a lot of that I didn't have the as much of a full oversight of them in some cases, right? But the final say so wasn't always mine. But just the movement of adults, and that really surprised me in terms of them. In some cases, my assumption that what they would do was what they were hired to do, and they would come to a classroom and do what was supposed to be done. Everything's supposed to be turned in a certain time. But it definitely surprised me on how much oversight was needed for adults. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges for me. And the other part is just the informal leadership. Now, some of this was mentioned in some of those early classes, but just seeing how we are a unionized school, but that's not really our biggest issue. But just seeing how informal leadership among adults can affect the movement and the culture of a building.
Good stuff. And I kept Dr. Stallings up here deliberately because that's the part of your bio that I edited out. But certainly Dr. Stallings was a mentor for you in your growth in this business, having worked with him for the number of years that you did. So shout out to my main man, Dr. Vincent Stallings. Appreciate that, Principal Sawyer. Let me go to Dr. Johnson. Anything that surprised you when you took on this role that you can talk about?
I have to agree with Principal Sawyer. They often say it's not the kids, it's the adults. And so I know in the beginning of the school year, I went over the standard operating procedures line by line, verbatim, of the expectations that was going to guide our school community. And I followed up with weekly bulletins. I would say that repetition is a strategy, right? The messaging has to be consistent, not only from me, but to my assistant principals as well, for them to also provide and share the same messaging to the teachers and staff, as well as my senior cabinet members, which is comprised of my teacher coaches, my academic interventionists, members of the child study team. We all come together every Tuesday and we're going over those expectations that will guide us throughout the week. And this is something that is shared with our operations team, our clerical staff, our support staff, as well as our instructional staff. So again, just following just those protocols to make sure that the adults who are in charge of that building, regardless of title, we are all there for the children. And the expectation is that you govern yourself in such a way because they are watching. It's not so much of what you say, but it's what you do. And that is something that definitely resonates with me in this question.
You know, I want before I go to Dr. Wicks, I want to stay there, because that last point you made, they're watching. So we can talk the talk, right, Doc? And but our actions can contradict the talk, and they're watching that. So if you don't believe in what you said, then why should I hold on to what you said? I'm going to do what you do. If you talking to us about coming to work on time, but you showing up here when the late bell rings for students, then what are you saying to us, right? So it's, you know, so again, to the family out there, be mindful that what you say is consistent with what you do. It matters. Dr. Wicks, what do you think?
So I'm gonna agree that it's the adults, not the students as well. It shocked me. You know, they always say it's hard to transition from VP of the same school to principal of the same school. And as a staff, we did go through a lot together. And so I would say as a VP, I was like the situational leader. I was the blanket. That's what they would call me. My staff would sit in my office. They would vent. They would talk to me. I would, change with situations. But I always thought that other than that, they knew who I was, right? They knew I was transformative. They knew what I believed in. They knew what I wanted for them and for the students. So as a principal, I went in thinking, well, I don't need to be the blanket anymore. And you know exactly what I want. And it kind of like slapped me in the face a little bit. Like, no, you're going to have to say what you want, say what you mean, and be the transformational leader. So I had to come up with different PDs so that my teachers understood where I stood. So I would say that was the challenge of transitioning from VP to principal in the school and having them understand who I was as a principal now and not the vice principal anymore.
Yeah, yeah. That's, Dr. Wicks, it was interesting because for me, when I was a teacher, the intent was to make me a VP, an AP in our district in East Orange at the same school I taught at for, I guess it was 5 years. And at the 11th hour, and I don't mean the proverbial 11th hour, I mean the real 11th hour, the superintendent made a decision. He said, we can't have him there. He knows too many of them. They're his colleagues. So they put me in this, what's called the Hart complex in East Orange at Truth Middle School. But I did the AP position for a year, and they made me the principal. And I think the only reason that they would do that is because I wasn't there long enough to really be familiar with everybody. So they went on and just elevated me to that next position. But yeah, it can be a challenge because they're seeing us one way as that AP, and now I've crossed over. And as much as there are some of us out here who want to say that there's so much overlap between the two, for me, because the accountability is not there to the extent that it is with the principal at the administrative at the central office level, I can't equate them. The buck ain't stopping with an AP. It might stop between myself and the AP, but as far as whatever it is that could have happened that went awry, central office is gonna look at me, and then in turn I'll look at that AP. So yeah, good stuff. Let me go to Principal Paich. What are your thoughts?
So, for having so much experience in central office, one of the things that was very surprising once I came into the school-based role, such as principal, was how many initiatives are out there and the quasi redundancy that takes place. A few years ago, we had Dr. Doug Reeves present at one of the superintendent's conferences, and he said, take an initiative inventory, and see how many plates do you have spinning so you can develop focus. So once I started thinking about all of the things that between central office that I wanted to do, that I needed to do, that I was told to do, and all of the things, there's never enough hours in the day or week or month or year to get it all done. So how do we focus without letting folks get us off track? And what was very surprising at many times during the year was these are the things that we're focusing on in our school. somebody would go to a meeting somewhere and come back and be like, and now we got to do this. And I'm like, but that's not connected to anything. Let's pull it together and restructure to get it done, but in a way that makes it work for us, because all of the folks that are saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, aren't in our building, aren't with our kids. So we need to make it make sense. And if I could go back to central office, I don't want to. I like where I am. But if I was back in that role, I think there would be so many things that I would consider to do differently in the service of the schools by thinking about the full picture and folks I would have had conversations with. So in sum, we have to make it all make sense. And that was a little bit surprising to me of how disjointed different things could be that were coming at us.
Good stuff. And you mentioned Dr. Reeves, Doug Reeves. That's good. I'm not going to say a good friend, but a friend of mine, someone that I know in this space. Before we go on, it's 12:22, folks. Great conversation. We still got a little bit more to go, so I want y'all to hang in there with me. But as I always do at this midway point, the virtual AP Leadership Academy is being sponsored by the Assistant Principal Identity, protecting your leadership mindset, fervor, and authenticity. Did you say to me you don't have a copy of this book yet? Did you really say that? Well, look here, you can go to Amazon right now and get your copy of the Assistant Principal Identity, written by yours truly, Baruti Kafele. Right? So get your copy. And while you're there, look at the other books I wrote. You may want to get those as well. The Assistant Principal Identity, sponsoring the virtual AP Leadership Academy. Let's go. So, Dr. Johnson, if I was an aspiring aspiring administrator, right? And now aspiring principal, and I sought you out. Like I've never done anything at the principal level. I do know the AP level, and I sought you out as my mentor, and you've completed your first year. Tell me, what would be a piece of your advice to me that's looking to learn from you about principal leadership as this aspiring principal?
One thing that my mentor always share with me is that a leader is only as good as the people that they're able to grow. And so with that said, I am available. I am more than willing to coach you up, but it starts with yourself, right? Everyone's journey isn't the same. Just speaking from a personal standpoint, I started out as a teacher coach. From there, I went on to be a school operations manager, then a supervisor, and then a special assistant, and now a school principal. And so when we look at the bios that you read this morning, we all have a diverse background, right? No one's journey is the same. And so you have to be willing to put in the work and connect yourself with like-minded individuals. Definitely leverage partnerships and people who really want you to succeed. But it definitely starts with yourself. It's going to be a lot of work. Many are called, but few are chosen, right? And so you really have to be fully committed to serve behind the scenes and the spotlight. You have to do it all. This summer, I to attend 11.
You might have to go out and come back in. You froze. No, you good now. Let me see what happens.
Now.
No, you still frozen. Go. Let me see now, because it looks like you're trying to fix. Say something now.
So I shared with you that on July 11th, I am also going to attend a conference, right? We are definitely lifelong learners, and the work doesn't stop. So yes, I'm going to maintain balance. I'm going to get some rest, but I'm still going to very much continue to improve, to reflect as we begin to open up the new academic year.
Yeah, good stuff. I appreciate you. Good stuff. Dr. Wicks, same question. What advice do you have for me?
Yes, so I would say you run the title, don't let the title run you. And I tell all my teachers that now it's not about the title of principal is about who you are and how you sit in the work. Make sure that you are completely full before you go into the next title. And when you do get into the principalship, make sure you sit in that work as well, because it is a calling, it is a mission. Remain humble. You are the principal teacher. And we can never forget, we talked about this in the beginning, that we are the principal teacher, and that's where the principalship came from. That's what I would say. You run the title doesn't run you.
I like that, the principal teacher, right? Keep that in mind, folks. The principal teacher. Let's go with where am I at here? Principal Paich, what are your thoughts?
I'd say two things. Never forget what it's like to be a teacher and being in that classroom. We are the teachers' teachers, to echo Dr. Wicks' sentiment. But also find the joy every day. Sometimes it might be challenging to find the joy, and the joy is usually in your classrooms, in your cafeteria, on the playground. It's wherever the kids are. So find that joy and be authentically you. I am who I am. And sometimes that surprises people where they'll be like, hi, is the principal here? When they see me at the front door and I'm like, that would be me. I am the principal. How can I help you? But you might not be what everybody expects. You might be too young according to some people, or to this or to that. But if you're authentic to who you are and you lead with conviction, your team will be able to support you in moving your school forward. Teachers, staff can sniff it out when you're not authentic.
So I want to stay with you, Erica, Principal Paich. You're speaking to something that I talk a lot about. You're speaking to a whole chapter of the book I just put on the screen in terms of being your authentic self. But I want to ask you this question. I guess I'm going slightly off script since you use that language, but let's stay there. How talk to my audience, right? Talk to our audience. How do I sustain my authenticity when my authenticity runs counter to who staff want me to be, if that makes sense? If you need more detail, I can give it to you.
So let me try to answer. I don't know if I'm answering what you're asking. So I don't think I've encountered that this year. But it's being able, for me, being authentic is being able to have those hard conversations, but also honoring that people are people on the other end. So I can be firm, I can hold you accountable, but I can also in the next breath understand that there's probably a lot going on in your life, and having sympathy for those pieces, but not at the expense of student achievement, my students, and my school. Which I really like to say our students, our school, but in terms of this context, in terms of my students, my school, I can't let you interfere with that. And having that balance, that teachers know that I authentically care about who they are as a person, but I also have my eye on the prize of improving student achievement and improving those literacy and math outcomes for all of the kids, all of the students in the building.
Good stuff. I love it. I'd go further with it, but I'm gonna stay focused. Stay focused. Principal Sawyer, what do you think?
I would say for that aspiring leader to look at the aspiration of being a leader as an opportunity to further do what you do well in that classroom on a larger scale in a different capacity. I think a lot of times the idea is this principalship is, done because, hey, I don't want to teach anymore, or hey, I don't want to do this, or I want to be the boss, But really, if you're doing some great things in that classroom and you're really impacting scholars and you're the person that is that kind of go-to where everybody wants to, they're in their classroom and you're really getting some great outcomes, look to that leadership role as a way to do that that you're doing for not just the 30 students you work for, now you can do that for whatever number of students in that building. And as you move forward, I think that's what will be the main focus of it.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. I'm gonna keep moving because of time. This question that I put together was before, obviously, we started talking, and I think two of you actually answered the question already. I'm gonna put it out there though, and those of you that already answered, I think it was particularly Principal Paich. You can just give me a brief answer just so we have it documented under this question. But Dr. Wicks, I want to start with you. As a first-year principal, you had a particular vision, I'm assuming, for what your year was going to look like. You may have broken it down into what my first month, my first 2 months, whatever it was, but you had a vision. You didn't just go in there blind. I know that. I can assume that. And looking at the specificity of instructional leadership, was your vision of who you would be as instructional leader consistent with your reality of being instructional leader in your building?
So it goes back to what Principal Paich said about it's very hard to be in the classrooms. And so it's very hard to do the instructional leadership that you want to do when you can't get into the classrooms. But I did have a team. I did have a vice principal and a teacher coach that the three of us worked really well together to see that vision through. The vision was to get kids reading for second grade. And the ultimate goal was to get our 3 and 4 year olds reading so that we could bridge the gap for kindergarten. And the only way that was possible is because I used my team. So the vision was I was going in there all the time as a VP, but reality was you can't be there all the time. So you have to leverage your other leaders and work as a team so that you all can do the work together. And we did accomplish the goal of 3 and 4 year olds reading and our second graders hitting the benchmarks. But that was because I had my team with me at all times.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm gonna go right to Principal Paich on this one. Unmute yourself, Principal.
Sorry about that. So I think basically my response is very similar to what I said before about being in the classrooms as much as I would like to, and then making sure that you hit those teachers that are the experts, that you're in there, you give them that attention to continue to grow them. There was a couple of times throughout the year where I was like, I really wish, because I have some veteran, amazing teachers that were gifted to me by some spirit above that landed in my school. And every time that I think back, I'm like, I wish I spent more time in their rooms learning from them to be able to spread those promising practices or amazing practices to the other classrooms. So that's at the top of my list for next year.
Yeah, sounds good. And I know you're gonna be there. You know, you got the summer to process it. Think about what the challenges were this year. You don't have the AP, and strategize.
I will next year.
Oh yeah, you'll have it next year. So therefore, you'll be in better position to be that instructional leader that you want to be, where young people benefit exponentially. Let's go with Dr. Johnson.
So everything starts with the school vision, outlines our values, community. Our attendance last year was challenged. So to have exceeded our goal of improving our attendance, right? We're going to close the year at 93% with our attendance rate, which is a significant gain. But also we started.
Oh, Dr. Johnson, you breaking up again. Do me go out and come back, and then we'll come right back to you.
Got it.
Let me go to you, Principal Sawyer. You once again, your vision of who you'll be as instructional leader versus your reality as instructional leader. Were they aligned, or was there a disconnect, and therefore you need to look at doing things differently moving forward?
So definitely the ability to get in classrooms will be something that have to be improved upon. When I came on last year, the district had hired Dr. West, who was a former superintendent in East Orange and other places, And one of his biggest things he would say to me is, you got to just factor in time in your schedule to get in those classrooms, and that the primary thing, so, but as Dr. Wicks said, the idea of it and the actual doing of it is very challenging, So one of my biggest things next year will be that I will, block out that time that I'll be in those classrooms and just be kind of mobile in the principalship, and prioritizing that time. I think that's what will be important, that everything will be built around that, because again, you always get, anything can happen. You can get a call from DCP&P, you can get a parent that comes in, you get any kind of thing that happens, especially in Patterson and in Newark, these type of school districts. You'll get anything that needs your utmost attention at that moment in time. And that can happen any day, any moment in time. So, but if you can prioritize, and what I plan to do is prioritizing being in those classrooms. And if anything, I'm called from a classroom to take care of something, but I want to start with being in the classroom and let my team run all the other aspects of what's going on.
I love it. I love it. Let me bring Dr. Johnson back now. See how that goes.
So you want to start with the end in mind. This year, we had our year at a glance calendar, which outlined all of our programming. We even incorporated it into our PLC so that we knew what topics we wanted to discuss, looking at the data, analyzing our data, all of that. And so it always starts with the vision, right? Everything that we are planning for, does it align with our objectives, our goals, our values as a school community? And so just in reflecting on this piece, definitely beginning with the end of mind, allowed for us to meet and surpass some of the goals we identified in the beginning of the academic year.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, folks out there, I got 3 more questions. So hang in there with us. Hit the share button, hit the retweet button, hit the repost button, hit the like button. Let them know things are happening at the virtual AP Leadership Academy. Principal Paich, planning, organization, and time management. Was the system of planning, organization, and time management that you entered your building with as a first year principal, that you built a school, opened up a school, was it workable for you, or did you have to make modifications as you became acclimated with your new role?
So I definitely had to make I had to make changes throughout the year. So I came from a series of roles that was reactive, right? Everything, not reactive, but like everything had to happen immediately. And also through my experience as a teacher or being in the schools, I was always one of the people that the principal would come to be like, hi, I need help with this. I need you to do that. Then I realized there was nobody coming to me saying, hi, person who helps me all the time, I need you to, that was my role, right? So balancing all of that and figuring out all of those pieces really impacted my time management overall. I think it was the first time you came to speak to the Essential Word Principles. You talked about it like hour by hour, half hour by half hour time schedule piece. That was so simple, but so life-changing. So each day I take before the day ends, I take out a new one for the next day and plan out my day. And just from time, like I time block now, okay, this is the time that I'm going to do for walkthroughs. This is the time I'm going to do for parents. So I block out that first half hour every morning to be flexible in the event that I have parents. Because I found if I didn't, then it backed up my whole day. And guess where I didn't end up that day? In the classrooms. So those time blocks really helped set out my schedule and put me where I needed to be throughout the day.
Good stuff. Principal Sawyer, same question.
Definitely this summer, the bulk of what we're going to do is going to be planning. I think one of the things was a hiccup for me this year was not having the opportunity to plan last summer because a lot of my team was built in that last week before school started. Yeah. So, and one of the things I found is that not doing the schedule really kind of affected how we move this year. So I'm glad to say right now, as I sit, the tentative schedule for next year is already set. The class roster for next year is set. So the other pieces can just be planned out for how things are going to look. And for me, really planning out month to month what is going to look like. So and even down to day of what my schedule will look like and what my team's schedule will look like is just what the summer work is going to be to make sure that we have that in place. And even if it's, having assemblies and whatever we're going to do, having those people that are going to be there, booked, planned, set up, whatever, in enough time, because of the fact that things are so in the moment and immediate, you definitely have to have a plan in place, because so that planning will be done. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, before I go to Dr. Johnson, to the family, planning, organization, time management. It can make you or it can break you. So make sure that that's part of your priority over the summer in terms of just that whatever system you're going to put in place for yourself. Dr. Johnson, same question.
Certainly. So I spoke to this earlier of planning with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Right? Leveraging that at a glance calendar allow for us to account for everything that we wanted to accomplish throughout the school year. But I also would share not planning in isolation. You definitely have to solicit the support and feedback from your immediate cabinet, from your assistant principals, as well as the teachers, because they have to buy to the plan as well. And then ask for their schedules. You have to review it and approve it to see if this makes sense. And then the final piece I would share is not being afraid to work beyond the instructional day. There are often times where parents want to meet, and I have to explain my role as the instructional leader. That meeting has to take place outside of instruction, because right now we're in our classrooms, and so it's not that we're ignoring or being insensitive, but we have to stay focused. You have to stay the course to ensure that we advance our school-wide goals.
Yeah. Dr. Wicks.
I would say this year school-wide, because we did what Dr. Johnson said, we planned with the end in mind. So we did have a schedule at glance. And I want to say all of our events happened. We did have to change dates at times, but in August, we already knew what was coming up. I would say that it also went well because, like what Dr. Johnson said, is you use delegation. So I delegated all of these events to teachers, my VP, my teacher coach. So all they had to do was bring me back the plan, tell me how much they needed to make this event rock. And then I would do that part. They had a planning team. I would say personally, like my principal schedule, I had to learn after a while to kind of make boundaries where you can't just walk into my office and want to talk to me. You have to go talk to the clerks first. Parents had to make appointments unless it was like so grave, someone's going to get hurt or something. But I had to make boundaries so that I can do, my job. But school-wide, I think it went well. As long as you delegate and you follow up and you hold everyone accountable, it'll go smoothly.
Yeah, good stuff. Planning, organization, time management, folks. It matters, right? Don't wait until you're in the seat next year. Start thinking about it now, processing it now. Principal Sawyer, parental engagement. First full year as a principal. Was parental engagement where you want it to be? Or are there some adjustments that you feel that you want to make towards maximizing parental engagement in your school?
No, it was not what we needed to be. And I think it was a gap in an area that I really could have maximized on, because we do have a wonderful set of parents who want to be involved, and I just think, at an elementary level, they're always involved. And sometimes we assume that they don't want to be involved as much in the middle school level. So finding ways for them to get involved is important. So as we go to the last question of scheduling, that's going to be very intentional with the meetings with parents, whether it be monthly town halls, whether it be coffee and conversations, but on a regular, consistent basis, scheduled and so that parents know when to come. So that's definitely something that is an area of growth for me for the new year, and it goes with the scheduling of having that calendar of those interactions well in advance.
Good stuff. We're Dr. Johnson, same question.
So there's always room to grow. I had pre-K and kindergarten moving up ceremony earlier in the week. And I'm talking hundreds of families in the school building to see the children. And so yesterday, 89 of our 8th graders, they graduated. They're going off to high school. One of the touch points that I shared with the families is have that same energy that you have in this very moment and the years and days ahead, right? And so connecting with your parents, celebrating them, not only calling them when something is wrong, but also sharing the good stuff that's going on with their child, and not only knowing the children by name, but knowing something about them. I connected with one parent in particular yesterday, and she was just discussing some of their summer plans with the girls. And so for me to just have full working knowledge of what they're going to do outside of the school building, it matters. And so to be able to cultivate relationships with your families is definitely important. As the principal, you have to be visible in your building. As I shared earlier, I began to look at all of the events and programming we had throughout the year. Our parents were present. And so for them to actually touch and hold this yearbook and to see our newsletters, it allows for them to know that we're watching them as well, and we're holding them accountable to share this work and educate their child or children in some cases. And so definitely having multiple touch points with them. Some parents work during the day, so if you have a program, then offer a live streaming opportunity so that they can check in and see the awards assembly from their phone or just logging into their desktop, even though they can't physically be present in the school community. So for us to just be forward thinking, think outside the box, and just extend multiple ways for them to stay connected goes a long way in this area.
Powerful points you made, Dr. Johnson, because, as I always say, and you all probably, the Newark folks probably heard me say in your sessions that one of the silver linings to the pandemic was this virtual world that came out of it. And now we have so many other vehicles to be able to reach parents beyond just having them physically come into the building. It's just building a culture where this is what we do at these particular times. If you got a phone, then we can make this thing happen, right? So love everything you said about it. So I'll just ask the question rhetorically to the folks on the call, to the family out there. Are you making best usage of the technology now that we've got this virtual space that we did not have? It existed, but we weren't using it prior to the pandemic. I always was being interviewed on Zoom via Zoom as the medium. But for me, it was just a one-on-one thing. I didn't realize I could reach the masses with it. I didn't realize I could reach thousands of people with it. I didn't realize that Zoom, that clients could do conferences with 10,000 people watching, right? So there's so much that can be utilized through virtual platforms toward reaching parents that we have to tap into, as opposed to the old school way of trying to get them into the building, right? Good stuff, Dr. Wicks.
So I second everything you said, Dr. Johnson, Principal Sawyer. I think one big thing is the PTO. So my PTO has moved to PTA, and they're connected to the state now. My parents are really involved, and I stay connected with them as well. So I go to every PTO meeting the first Tuesday of every month. There as well. The PTA person for the state, he came and he didn't even realize I was the principal because we connected so well. He was like, oops, didn't know there was an administrator in the room. And so my parents were like, oh no, that's our girl. Don't worry about it. You want to have those relationships with your parents because you all believe in the same things. Those are their children and our children during the day. So we believe in one goal. as one team and we work together. So don't forget about your parents. Like Dr. Johnson said, Principal Kafele, use your technology, bring them in all the time. We have events during the day, but we also have them at night. We switch them up so that the parents that work at night could come during the day, and then the ones that work during the day could come at night. So we have events at all different times. They are your best assets, like they are your best partners in this race, and so utilize them.
Yeah, yeah, great stuff. Principal Paich.
So to echo, I think everything that everybody said, but to add to it, whether students, parents, and teachers all want to know primarily that you love their children, and being present when the parents are around. So being out there during arrival, being out there at dismissal, saying those goodbyes and good mornings, and whether it's shaking their hands or giving the little kindergarten hugs, shows to those parents that, okay, the principal loves my kids, and I want to work with her to support the school. That has been one of the biggest blessings, I think, at my school, is on an ongoing basis, the parents coming up and saying, what do you need? How can we support? Oh, you're having an event. I'm going to donate chips or water, so you don't have to worry about providing any food for those that come. So just those little things show that this is a partnership. And I truly believe it comes from the idea that, like, you've made the relationships with my kids and by proxy with me, and we're in this together. And as a secondary thought, my school is predominantly Spanish and Portuguese speaking. I am a monolingual individual, but one of the things that I've begun to take on is trying to learn basic Spanish and basic Portuguese, and being vulnerable enough to try to read a couple sentences at our award ceremonies or a kindergarten graduation in both Spanish and in Portuguese. When I talk to the families, I try to listen and understand. I usually use a translator to support me, like one of my teachers, just so there's no miscommunications. But showing parents that I'm going to be vulnerable, try to engage with you in your language, they're more likely to say, okay, I am going to do the same, because I might have enough English. I might be a little bit unsure about using it, but now I'm going to try. So now we're talking face to face. And we have support there in case we need it, so we don't lose anything in translation. But it's so meaningful for parents, because they're like, okay, she likes us. She wants to communicate with us.
I saw that disconnect, Principal Paich, when I went down to North Tech and had a 30% Latino population, with the majority of them being ELL, English language learners. And I went on and invested in Rosetta Stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I just didn't retain whatever I learned in high school. And I taught myself. Now, was I speaking to my parents and students conversationally? No. But I began to understand some things and began to take certain risk at my ELL parent meetings. And it showed them, it demonstrated to them that they mattered, to the extent that I would make the investment in money and time and effort to be able to communicate in their language, even though they were learning the language that I speak, right? So everything you said, it matters. So now, that greeting in the morning you talked about, that greeting or that saying goodbye in the afternoons, I'm able to enhance that because I got some level of understanding of the language, and it just enhance my overall practice as a leader. So good stuff. I got one more question, and then we go to those rapid fire bam questions. Dr. Johnson, I'm gonna start with you on this last question. As a first year principal, is there anything that you learned about yourself that you may not have necessarily been in tune with prior to becoming a principal?
This year confirmed my resilience, right? Just being able to stand in front of people, even though I'm tired, or I may be hurting. I'm human too, right? And so, developing my voice, being able to advocate for the students at all costs. And by all means, one of the questions I always ask candidates that I interviewed, and I ask this consistently: what does it mean to you to do right by children? And based on that one answer, your response to that question will tell me whether or not you will be a good fit for the school community. Because from your answer, I'll know if I can count on you to be here on a Saturday, or to give it 110%, and to show up and come to work and be here for the children. So just being resilient, not being afraid to say no. All help isn't good help, right? You have to use your discernment and to know who you can welcome into your building, to speak to your teachers, to engage with your students. You have to safeguard all of that. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity. I look forward to what's to come for the opening of our next school year as I continue to plan throughout the summer.
Love it, Dr. Wicks. Anything you learned about yourself being in this new capacity?
Yes, sitting in what you believe in and not letting anyone change your mind when you're doing what's right for students. So there are things that I decided that staff may not have agreed with, but if it was the best for kids, then it is what it is. And so sitting in who I was, what I believed in, and not letting anyone try to sway me away from what I believed and I know that was right.
Love it. Principal Paich.
That not everybody's going to like you all the time, and it's okay. I think by nature, very much a people pleaser. And that was something that I basically have to leave in my car before I enter the building every day, because people pleasers don't move instruction. People pleasers don't have those hard conversations with teachers when they're not doing right by kids. And that's part of the role. And is it uncomfortable sometimes? Yes. But when you are present and you're listening and you're visible and you're watching, you don't need to be a people pleaser, because people will start either shaping up or exiting because they're uncomfortable by you trying to do what's right by kids. Sorry, I rambled there a little bit at the end.
No, you were good.
But not everybody's going to love you all the time.
Not everybody's going to love you, so you might as well deal with it.
It's okay.
That's right. Principal Sawyer.
It's funny that I'm hearing this, and a lot of it's all the same that you learn in this capacity. So definitely the people pleasing piece, learning the difference between compliance and compassion, and how to remain compassionate, but also to enforce compliance. And then the other one is a lesson I always, work on teaching my own children. And that's the difference between nice and kind, and I'm learning that sometimes nice, will be to your detriment, but kind is where you want to be, so that's really the biggest lesson I've been learning.
Yeah, good stuff. As I transition to the impact rapid fire BAM impact questions, and I think about this question I just asked you all. Being a teacher, I led children. Being an AP, I was relegated to this full-time disciplinarian, and so I didn't really feel that I was a leader of teachers or adults just yet. I supervised a percentage of the staff, but I really didn't feel like I was that guy based on my responsibilities. But as a principal, all of a sudden, I was a leader of men and women. And I think the biggest thing I learned about myself in year one was that I could lead men and women, because all I knew was leading children, right? So it was an awakening for me, like, I think I can do this. And I don't mean do this meaning the totality of the principalship, but just do this in terms of, I think I can lead men and women, right? And then went on and built from that. So there's a lot to learn there in this capacity called principal. Let's go to these BAM impact questions. Since there's 4 of you, I'm just going to give you 5 each, and then there's a 21st. I'm going to give you all the same one. So one word or one sentence max. If you go over a sentence, I'm going to say right? So just we're going to keep it moving. Starting with Courtney. Dr. Johnson, is education on the right path for underserved children?
Given platforms like these, it's in progress.
Can true equity occur in America's schools for Black, brown, and other underserved students?
Yes, with the appointed people in place.
If Dr. Courtney Johnson, does Dr. Courtney Johnson's work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Absolutely, as I continue to love on our children.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
It will be the same.
Why do you continue to do this work?
For the love of the children.
Dr. Wicks, what fires you up within the work that you do?
It's bringing awareness to the inequities, to know that we're working on the equities together.
What do you love most about the work you do?
The joy of the children, the building capacity of staff, and then again, going back to bringing the awareness and changing the educational system for children of color.
What do you dislike about the work you do?
That maybe not many people are in it for the same reasons.
What has been your greatest victory in this work?
Seeing smiles on children's face, building knowledge of teachers, and getting 3-year-olds to read.
And what was your greatest mistake in this work?
I can't really say that there was a mistake yet.
That's no problem. Principal Paich, what has been your greatest challenge in this work?
Getting it all done and setting those boundaries.
Are you proud of your first year? And I'm assuming you were assistant principal. Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal? You weren't one. So I'll go to the next one. Are you saying no, or you were not an assistant principal?
I was not an assistant principal.
So you went right into that position. Are you proud of your first year, meaning this year, as a principal?
Yes. I'm very proud of my first year and my staff's first year in my school.
Who inspires you in the work you do?
So many people, but mainly the children.
What are you reading right now? And it could be book, blog, article, anything.
I just finished The Light We Carry by the former First Lady, Michelle Obama. And I am about to start The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
All right. And so that one question I asked, so don't worry about it. Let me move on to Principal Sawyer. What book do you recommend for our viewers?
Extreme Ownership is definitely an excellent one. And anything Principal Kafele would be a good book.
I appreciate you. What do you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished yet?
You mean from a school standpoint or just in general?
From school standpoint.
We definitely want to raise our test scores, but primarily just want to create an environment where our students come every day to love where they come.
Are you satisfied with where you are professionally now?
No, I want to keep going. I still want to improve and grow.
What could you say to a viewer out there who's continued to face closed doors?
Keep pushing. And one time you said to me was just the idea of whatever your goal is or mission, make sure someone knows about it. Who knows it? So getting that word out there.
Love it. What could you say to what could you say to a viewer out there who's lost their fire?
Get unstuck. You know, find something that's gonna motivate you, move you, find a why.
Love it. Love it. If Dr. Courtney Johnson was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Passionate.
If Dr. Tiffany Wicks was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Insightful.
If Principal Erica Paich was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Authentic.
And if Principal Sean Sawyer was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Motivation.
Motivation. Hey, y'all, we've come to 1 o'clock. We've come to the conclusion. I appreciate y'all. Outstanding. To the family out there, those of you who are veterans, you know how we applaud my guest. Give us those emojis, your favorite emojis, and let them know if this resonated with you, if it was something useful, if you enjoyed it, if it was time well spent, whatever it was. Let us see those emojis coming. I see them. I see them. I see them. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. That's how our guest noted the time was a time well spent. Keep them coming. Oh, I see them, man. Yeah, let us know. Use your favorite emoji, whatever it may be. And I'm going to grab my emoji. It's big too, man. My back, man. Symbolizing not just the home run, but the grand slam. All 4 of you, all 4 times at bat, over the fence with the bases loaded. That's a lot of runs. I can't do the math in my head. So that this quickly live. So whatever that math is, that's how many runs you scored. So good stuff. I appreciate you immensely. There are folks on here that probably want to holler at you. So how can they reach you? I'm gonna start with Dr. Johnson. How can folks, you can find it through social media because you may not want to be bombarded, but how can they reach out to you with any questions, comments, or concerns?
So please find me on LinkedIn. I will also share my email address. It's courtney.r.johnson@yahoo.com.
And give me that LinkedIn again.
You can follow me on LinkedIn. You just put in my name. I'll late. Yes.
All right. All right. Good stuff. Dr. Wicks.
Hi, my email is drtiffanyWicks@gmail.com. And then social media, Facebook is Tiffany Mondesir Wicks. And then Instagram is Dr. Tiff_Wicks.
Good stuff. Principal Paich.
My Instagram is @principalpaich. I wrote it in my little name tag. And my email is ericapaich@gmail.com.
And Principal Sawyer.
So the Facebook page is just Sean Sawyer, SEANSAWYER. Instagram is urban_alchemist7. You can find me there. An email could just be at ssawyer@ccsp.org.
Sounds good. So you all reach out. If you missed that, just rewind on the video on any of the platforms. We're on 5 platforms. So just rewind and see and reach out to whomever. Hey, y'all, stay on until I close out, and then we can holler off mic off camera real quick. Hey, for the folks on here, real quick, let me do this rundown. Appreciate you being here, as I always say. Join me next Saturday, 10:55 Eastern time. And we got another session with week number 166. I got the 3 Kings coming on. That's what they call themselves, the 3 Kings. I'm going deep south tomorrow. I got Onay Chapman from Mississippi, Keena Walker from Georgia, and Jeff Williams from Mississippi. So we're going deep south tomorrow with the 3 Kings. They're consultants, they're educators. They have a particular focus on African-American young men, and we're going to have a good discussion next week. So join us live at 10:55 Eastern time for week 166. And then while you're at it, 10 o'clock next Saturday morning, Facebook Live, Sean Hurt. 10:30, Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor, the 2 doctors. At where we at here on Sunday night, 7 o'clock, you got Josh Tovar and Dean Packard with Unlock the Middle. That's Facebook Live again, 7 Eastern. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, Dr. Roz Gaskins and Coach Williams, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6. Join me in North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, the School Leadership Institute with Principal Kafele, 9 to 4, July 11 and 12. Again, 9 to 4 both days. We're going to be full. Make sure if you didn't get a copy, The Assistant Principal Identity. Get your copy. It's brand new. Came out May 5th. Get yourself a copy. You can go to Amazon. You can go to Barnes & Noble. You can go to ASCD, my publisher, ascd.org, either place, and get yourself a copy. It's a quick read, and I'm sure you'll like it. Give me a rating on Amazon as well, right? Give me a 5-star rating, right? Give me a 5-star rating. Don't mess around and give me a 1. You know, we got them haters out here in the world, and sometimes they just like to mess with people. I know it's a 5-star, right? So just affirm that for me. Visit principalkafele.com for whatever resources, man. We got all sorts of stuff on there that you don't have to pay a dime for. So just visit the website and review it and see what's on there. Subscribe to the Virtual AP Leadership Academy YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to that. Hit that red button, and that way you get all your notifications when I go live. And then like and follow the Virtual AP Leadership Academy Facebook page. Lastly, your diet, man. Take care of yourselves, y'all. I'm smiling, but I could be frowning. Make sure you're eating right, right? Don't just put anything in you. Because see, as I say frequently, you can mess around like I did. I suffered a heart attack because of diet, and lack of exercise on a stage, 200 principals in the room, University of Miami, and here I go. My main artery clogs 100%, right? So make sure that you're eating right. But also make sure that you're exercising. I live on them treadmills, man. It's the worst time of my day. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But I do it because it allows me to sustain life, right? So that cardio work, whatever you do cardio, doesn't have to be a treadmill. It could be whatever. But make sure you're getting the work in. And then your COVID precautions, man. I rock that mask on them planes. I don't rock it nowhere else. But I rock it on them planes, man. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. Don't believe the hype that there's no pandemic. It's here. Ain't going nowhere. It's just not as dangerous out here, but it's here. Other than that, thanks for being here. We see you next Saturday at 10:55 Eastern Time. Have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist back. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Bam! I see y'all next Saturday. Have a great week. Stay safe, stay strong, and we'll see all of you next week.